If you're trying to decide whether the Blackmagic Design Micro Studio Camera 4K Ultra HD is the right fit for your streaming setup, who should actually get it, who should walk away, and does it justify its price for the average creator? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Most of us have stared at a spec sheet, imagined a perfect shoot, and then realized we might have picked the wrong tool, so let's unpack the real-world trade-offs before you spend a few $100s. First off, the biggest draw is the sheer size. Blackmagic markets this as the world's smallest Ultra HD live studio camera. And that isn't just a marketing line, it changes how you can arrange a multi-camera rig in a cramped home office or a tiny interview corner. Imagine you have a 10 by 10 foot space, two people sitting at a desk, and you want a dedicated headshot, a wide-angle view, and a close-up for product demos. With a traditional DSLR or camcorder, you'd be fighting cables, tripod legs, and a mountain of gear. The Micro Studio slips onto a small tabletop mount, or even a flexible arm, and still leaves room for lighting and a laptop. That flexibility is a genuine strength when you're building a live stream or a multi-camera YouTube shoot on a budget. Ease of use is where the conversation gets interesting. Blackmagic's cameras are known for a menu system that leans toward professionals, and the Micro Studio is no exception. The screen is modest, and you have to dig through a few layers to set things like ISO, white balance, and the 4K image sensor parameters. If you're a beginner who's used to point-and-shoot phones, you'll need a short learning curve, though the layout isn't confusing. It just expects you to know what you're looking for. On the other hand, if you've already used a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera or a DaVinci Resolve workflow, you'll feel right at home and appreciate the consistency across the product line. Autofocus confidence is a practical concern for live productions. The Micro Studio does offer continuous AF, but it's not a sports camera level of tracking. In a talks house scenario where the host moves a bit or you switch between a seated guest and a standing presenter, the focus holds steady most of the time, but you'll notice a slight hunting if the subject moves quickly across the frame. That's why many creators pair the camera with a follow focus device or lock focus manually after a quick focus pull. If you plan on shooting static interviews, product showcases, or tutorials where the camera and subject stay relatively still, the autofocus works well enough. If you need rapid subject changes, think live gaming, or a cooking show with a lot of motion, you might find the AF a little too tentative. Low-light performance is another real-world factor. The Ultra HD image sensor delivers clean 4K footage in well-lit environments, but the sensor isn't as large as those in high-end cinema cameras. In a dimly lit room, you'll need to boost the ISO, and while the image remains usable, you'll start to see noise in the shadows. A practical workaround is to add a modest key light or use a ring light positioned close to the subject. The camera's ability to output a clean 4K signal means you can still grade the footage in post, but you won't get the same cleanest no look you'd expect from a larger sensor model. If you routinely stream from a dark basement or a coffee shop with ambient lighting, you should budget for a simple LED panel. Stabilization is not built into the body. The Micro Studio is essentially a fixed lens, fixed sensor rig that relies on external mounting for any shake control. In a static studio setting, that's fine. You'll mount it on a solid tripod or a desk mount arm, and it stays rock solid. If you want to do handheld or gimbal work, you'll need to add a separate gimbal, which adds cost and complexity. For most live streamers and tutorial creators, that isn't a deal breaker, just a reminder that the camera isn't an on-stop handheld solution. Lens ecosystem is a point that can trip up buyers. The Micro Studio uses a micro 4/3 mount, which opens the door to a wide range of lenses from Olympus, Panasonic, and third-party manufacturers. That's a strength if you already own MFD glass or are comfortable hunting for affordable primes and zooms. However, the camera's tiny body means you can't attach the larger, heavier cinema lenses you might see on a full-frame cinema rig. If you need a 50mm f/1.2 for a shallow depth off-field look, you'll have to stay within the weight limits of the mount, or else risk stressing the body. The flexible expansion port does allow